Hey y'all, welcome back to Hopeful and Wholesome. We are in for episode number 2 in my series all about untangling worth. And today I want to talk about the hidden link between self-worth and your chronic physical symptoms and how those things are linked. And I think it's really important to be able to understand how subconscious beliefs about self-worth really can manifest themselves as physical symptoms and physical health issues. And if you think about it, your exhaustion, your bloating, your hormonal imbalances, none of those are ever just physical ailments. And I think it's important for us to shift that, how the physical things happening in our body. Because a lot of times, and how I want to tie those in today, they are directly tied to how we perceive our own self-worth. And that is what's showing up in our physical body. So if you've ever felt like your body was working against you, despite your efforts to change your diet, do the nutritional things, do the supplements, get the rest, do the nervous system work. This episode is going to dive into that. So I want to explore the hidden link between self-worth and chronic health symptoms. And that this conversation really goes beyond just nutrition and sleep. All those things are important, but it's really about understanding how your body's physical state reflects your deepest beliefs, your deepest wired beliefs about yourself. And this is not something that I don't think we're ever taught, right? Not many people are teaching how the beliefs about ourself really does reflect on our physical body. So by the end of this episode, I want you to understand how your subconscious beliefs and worthiness can create tangible physical imbalances, why stress, mineral depletion, and your gut health can stem from deeper issues and deeper nervous system responses, and the practical shifts that you can implement to start healing your body at its core and what you can actually do about it. So let's first talk about kind of a little bit of a recap from yesterday, but how this self-worth issue gets programmed into the body. So from early childhood, like we talked about yesterday, all I want to say many of us, but I really think it's all of us are conditioned to tie our worth to external achievements. Right? Yesterday or in the last episode, we talked about overworking, overgiving, overachieving, and how we tie all of that to our worth. We get praised for good grades. We get labeled as the good girl for prioritizing others' needs and putting other people first, and right, being the one who sacrifices ourself and whatever we sacrifice. We constantly celebrate this endless hustle and grind while seldom acknowledging success achieved through ease and self-trust. And we even are taught to be skeptical about it. We see people who have the success and it seemingly came easy, and then we don't trust it. Well, either they don't deserve it because they didn't work hard for it, or we're questioning, like, well, what did they do? Did you do something shady to get right? We question it if it doesn't seem like it's hard or that they quote earned it. So this conditioning fosters a belief that our value is contingent upon this constant doing and achieving. And it makes rest and slowing down feel synonymous with failure and not safe, right? It doesn't feel safe. I'm going to fail if I slow down. I'm going to fail if I rest. That's the other side of that coin. So these belief systems don't just happen in our mind. They manifest themselves physically. And I've mentioned over and over and over again on this show that I am of the belief that the physical things that are happening in our body, the root cause is on the emotional and energetic body, that it just shows up in the physical body. And so everything that's happening physically is tied to emotions, thoughts, beliefs, all of that, right? So let's think about this. Nervous system activation. Chronic feelings of inadequacy, of not being enough, can trigger this persistent fight or flight response. We're constantly in fight or flight if we feel like we're never enough, or feel like we're inadequate. Your body is constantly feeling unsafe. It's constantly feeling on edge. So your nervous system is triggered basically 24/7. And then there's the hormonal imbalances, right? Elevated stress levels are going to lead to hormonal imbalances, leading to things like irregular hormonal cycles, fatigue, brain fog, weight gain. If you think about it, if your nervous system is activated, is triggered 24/7, then you're constantly getting this spike of cortisol, which is the stress hormone. And I mentioned this yesterday, in the last episode. Cortisol is a catabolic hormone, meaning it breaks things down. So when we allow cortisol to be constantly pumped out into our body, it's going to break things down, meaning it's going to end up breaking down how your cells, your muscles, everything, your immune system, it catabolizes your body. So this is why we have things like inflammation happens and joint pain and muscle pain, and right, this is what happens. So hormonal imbalances. And then, not to mention what happens with your blood sugar, right? Cortisol and your blood sugar, cortisol and insulin move together. So if your cortisol spiked all the time, your insulin's going to be spiked all the time, right? So your blood sugar's all over the place. So hormonal imbalances. Mineral depletion. Talk about minerals all the time. Prolonged stress depletes minerals, especially really important minerals like magnesium, potassium, and sodium. Those are so easily depleted during times of stress, and these are crucial for bodily functions. It's crucial for our adrenals. It's crucial for our thyroid. All of these minerals, it's obviously other things too, but those two things especially play such a huge part in our metabolism and our energy. So your energy is going to take a hit. Digestive issues. Stress-induced changes can slow digestion, right? Slower motility, meaning things are emptying out slower. This can cause bloating. This can cause gut dysfunction. It can cause constipation. This can also cause hormonal issues because now we're not excreting excess hormones. That's how we excrete excess hormones. So if your motility is slowed down, meaning you're not pooping everything out or you're not pooping regularly, then you're recirculating toxins, you're recirculating hormones in your body, leading to more hormonal imbalances. So that's a lot. There's a lot going on in the physical body when we are constantly in that feeling of needing to do more and push more. Do you see how that's connected? You see how that's connected? So research shows that low self-esteem is associated with increased risk and greater symptom severity in daily life, meaning low self-esteem, you have low self-esteem, you have more stress, and your symptoms are more severe, right? A study also found that people with lower self-esteem reported more severe physical symptoms, including pain and fatigue. So you're going to feel them more. That's the other thing too. And I want to say this. So I mentioned cortisol. Cortisol is a catabolic hormone, right? So you're more prone to feel things like inflammation, pain, fatigue. The other thing is if your hormones are all over the place, and say your estrogen is being affected, right? If your estrogen is affected, estrogen has a protective mechanism against pain. This is why during the menstrual phase of your cycle, everything feels kind of exacerbated, right? So if our hormones are all over the place and your estrogen is all over the place, then you're also going to feel things differently because you don't have that protective mechanism of the estrogen. So pain, fatigue, right, all these things are just going to feel amplified. So if you've been dealing with chronic symptoms without relief, and you've done the diet, the supplements, all that, it's time to shift the question. It's time to change the question. You're just, if you haven't found the right thing to heal the body, we're not asking the right questions. The right question is, instead of asking, what am I doing wrong? Can we change it to what subconscious patterns are keeping my body in survival mode, right? What subconscious patterns are keeping my body in survival mode? Why is my body in survival mode? Right? Subconscious patterns, subconscious beliefs. Why is it happening? So this shows up in my clients all the time. And I'll share a story about one of my clients. She came to me very ambitious, high performer, right? That's who comes to me, and loved her career, was in a really prominent leadership position in her job, and very successful at what she does. She'd made her way. She was an empty nester. And so she was trying to kind of find herself again, right? But she was facing this relentless exhaustion, and she had bloating, and she had this weight situation that wouldn't go away. And she was having weird hormonal symptoms like the brain fog and the hot flashes. and dealing with just kind of some not like clinical anxiety, but kind of waves of anxiety and just kind of these feelings of overwhelm. And she was very well um educated, right? And like she'd done work on herself. I mean, she'd worked with other practitioners before, so she's very well educated, had done work on herself. But when we started working together, we discovered obviously a lot of mineral imbalances just because that's what happens, right? A lot of really substantial mineral depletions and mineral imbalances. And really at the core of it, we dove into her human design, 'cause this is the other piece, and this is a really good, not just good, this is an amazing tool to use in this work because it really allows us to see where these patterns are coming from and kind of how our energy is meant to flow with this kind of giving and worth conversation. So we looked at your human design too and recognized the why behind a lot of what was kind of going on subconscious because it was these deep-seated patterns of overgiving, overachieving, and this need to prove through her work. And so resting for her and setting boundaries, she had a really hard time setting boundaries. Setting boundaries is a big one for her. But slowing down and resting, like all of this constant overdoing, all of it was keeping her in this constant state of stress, just overgiving, overdoing, overachieving, constantly needing to do. And she recognized her soul was telling her, like, hey, you're in this new phase of life. You're an empty nester. Like maybe it's time to slow down. And she couldn't. Like she did not feel safe to slow down. It did not feel safe. She couldn't stop. Like there was no stop, eject button. It just wasn't happening. So it was through really diving into her human design and really helping her to see how her human design, how her energy was meant to flow in her body, that we could really start to rewire these things. So obviously we focus on some nervous system work, nervous system recalibration and regulation to really help her feel safe at rest. And again, understanding where her energy is meant to flow, how she's meant to set boundaries. We looked at her root center, right? I did a whole episode on the root center looking at defined versus undefined and where the pressure is. It internal pressure? Is it external pressure to do and how to navigate that? We implemented some nutritional changes. We did mineral balancing, all of this to help restore the balance in her body. And it was that deep energetic stuff. She had some really intense releases in our quantum healing sessions. This is the deep energetic work that we do that really helped to dismantle the beliefs that her worth was tied to her constant doing. There was a lot to untangle there. There's childhood stuff there. There's a lot there. But within the first month of us working together, she'd already dropped like 12 pounds. Her bloating was all but gone, right? And by the time we finished working together, I mean, there was just this renewed sense of like I told her in our last call together, like I could sense the lightness, like her energy was different, like her aura, her energy was different. She was just held herself in a different way. So it's like this is literally taking this load off of you when you're able to rewire and untangle these things. It's just this heavy burden, like carrying these beliefs and this being trapped in that belief. And that's really in my head. That's what I envision. It's like this armor that's on you. You're just trapped in this armor of constantly having to do and compete and be busy and fight the hustle. Like it's just you're constantly trapped in that narrative, and it keeps you trapped in survival mode. And I will say this 1,000 times over: there is no lab or supplement that is going to take a body out of survival mode. The true healing and the true balancing happens when we rewire and address those underlying patterns that are keeping us in this constant state of overdrive. And it's when we can rewire those beliefs of the overdoing, overgiving, overachieving, all of that being tied to our worth, that the physical body can start to heal. And that was like the story I shared with you in the last episode with where I had done all the work on my gut and but then there's these things still kept like coming to the surface. And I'm like, what the heck? Like I've done all these things and right, it's the rewiring that has to happen. And I will tell you this, I have worked with dozens and dozens of women who have worked with other practitioners and even other functional practitioners, not even conventional medical practitioners. And they've done the work, right? They've done the supplements, they've done the nutrition stuff, they've done the work on the physical body and maybe even done some nervous system work, right? Talk about mindfulness and slowing down. Like we have those conversations, they've had those conversations. But the symptoms kept coming back. They never actually totally went away. Or the one symptom would go away, or these few symptoms would go away, but these other symptoms would surface. And so their first inclination is, well, what's wrong with me? Right? What's wrong with my body? Why do these things keep happening? It's not your physical body. You haven't rewired the patterns and the beliefs that are causing the things on your physical body. That's what it comes down to. You have not done the rewiring required to really get to that deep healing. And I will say, 9 times out of 10, it's either this conversation here about worthiness, and all the things I talked about in the previous episode, or shame and guilt. Shame is another one. I talked about that in the sacral episode. But shame is also tied to I feel like shame is also tied to this worthiness conversation. There's shame attached there. So it's really all related. It's really all related. So before we close up this episode, I want to help you make a shift today to start healing. And then we'll dive deeper into some other uh, rewiring healing parts in the next episode. But just a super quick exercise. If you're driving or you're walking or doing something, then don't do this yet. Just wait. But if you're in a place where you can be still for just a second, this is super quick. It takes like 5 minutes. And this is just a little taste of what, if you're ever wondering what somatic work is, this is just a little taste of it. But it's teaching the body how to feel safe slowing down. And that's all it comes down to. We have to teach the body that it's safe to slow down. So, and just telling somebody to go meditate or go sit still, like that can be really triggering for people. So that's really not a solution either. So we have to do this in little baby steps, one step at a time. So first, if you find a comfortable position, so you can sit, you can lie down, but find a place where it's quiet. Again, this is like a 5 minute thing. You don't have to spend a lot of time doing this. And if you just find a comfortable place, comfortable position, and start taking deep breaths. Just inhaling and exhaling through your nose, or inhaling through your nose and exhale through the mouth. Let's do that. Inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. Deep, slow breaths. Can you slow your breath down? First question, right? Can you slow your breath down? Just taking the time. And if you can, if you want to count, if you can do maybe a 4 or 5 count inhale and an 8 or 10 count exhale, making your exhale twice as long as your inhale. This is the type of breath pattern that will calm down your nervous system. Double the exhale, double the length, right? So double however long your inhale is, make your exhale double. So if it's 4, do 8. If it's 5, do 10, whatever it is. So try that. Inhaling through your nose and exhaling through the mouth, just slowing down your breath. And then close your eyes when you feel safe enough. Place one hand on your heart, the other hand on your belly, and say, if you can, say it out loud. If not, say it in your mind, but out loud is going to be a little bit more powerful here. I am worthy even when I rest, and it is safe for me to slow down. I am worthy even when I rest, and it is safe for me to slow down. Now, I want you to say that to yourself a few times, and I want you to recognize any sensations that come up for you. This is going to be your sign, kind of where you are on the scale here of how safe you feel to rest and slow down. So if you notice any sensations, any tensions that come up, resistance, if it's pulling, if it's heavy, if it's queasy, if it's prodding, if it's um uh, maybe it's a pain, like a physical pain, maybe it's a poking, right? Do you feel any discomfort or resistance? Or do you feel resistance, like when you say the words, you don't really believe them? How does that feel in your body? Does it feel kind of uneasy in your gut? You feel a tightness in your chest? Is your mind telling you like, okay, all right? How do you feel when you say those affirmations? And then I want you to reflect. Consider whether it feels natural or challenging to embrace those affirmations. Does it feel good or does it feel challenging? This alone, this 5 minute practice here is the awareness that you need to highlight the areas that are ready to be healed and that require healing. So the resistance or discomfort. And not to say that if you don't feel discomfort, there's nothing to heal. I don't want to say make that as your truth either. But if you feel resistance and you feel discomfort, that is a blatant sign that there are things to be healed, right? So I'm going to leave you with that. And if you didn't get a chance to do that, if you're like on a walk or you're driving or something while you're listening to this, go home and try this practice. Again, it's 5 minutes. Just take 5 minutes to do it and just try it, reflect, and see what comes up for you. And I really want to hear how it's going for you with this conversation. So if you DM me the word worth to get on the list for what's coming out after this series and just to share your reflections. And do you see this pattern in your own health journey? Like, did this resonate with you in your health journey? And do you feel like a lot of the physical things happening in your body are reflective of this belief about self-worth? So shoot me a DM. I have my email in the show notes too if you're not on social media. And if you know that this is a pattern that you need to break. Like you already know, you're like, I'm in episode 2 and I already know I need to break this pattern. And you're ready to heal your body on a functional, energetic, and subconscious level. I would love to support you. I have some limited spots open up for my one-on-one energy reset sessions. And they're these reboot sessions where we're going to go deep into your health, your work patterns, your body's unique healing blueprint and roadmap. So if you're ready for that, then DM me the word reset and I'll send you details. And you can DM me or email me reset about these energy reset sessions. And I have a few options, different options. And these are great too if you're not ready to commit to like a big package and you don't want a huge investment. This is a great way to get started and start to untangle this and really dive into these subconscious pieces that you may not have addressed yet. So, thank you for listening to this episode. And if this resonated, make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share with friends. And just remember that your worth is never tied to how much you do, right? It is inherent. And I want this series of episodes to be the first straw, right? The first block that crumbles of that belief. So I encourage you to really dive into these episodes and be intentional with listening and taking some time to contemplate all the things that we talk about in these episodes. And please send me your takeaways. DM me or email me. I'd love to hear what's coming up for you. And I'll see you in the next episode of the series.